Oh, yeah, Mike. Hold on. Hi, Patriots. We are in front of the White House right now. Push. I gave you another tape.
No.
Hold on. It's green. The microphone. Have you pushed the button? Have you pushed the button? It's
Good afternoon, Patriots. We're bringing you here live in front of the White House on 1600 Unscripted. We have a very special episode today with Crise Quaglin, the J6er who survived terrible abuse by the BOP. Let's get him on the line right now.
Hello, sir.
Hello, Chris. You are live in front of the White House on 1600 Unscripted. How are you?
I'm doing great, Adam. How are you?
I'm doing great. Let's jump right in, Chris. For those in America who don't know who you are already, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what was done to you?
My name is Crise Quaglin. I was a January 6er. I was locked up for about 3.5 years. I was locked up April 7th of 21, and I was denied bond unless I cooperated, and by cooperation they meant create a false or sign a false narrative that said that Roger Stone, who I've never met before in my life, but he is a business partner of one of my friends, Roger Stone made me go to the Capitol building on January 6th, and they were basically going to create a RICO with Trump off of my statement. So I refused to do that. And then they started shipping me all around the country. I think I was shipped to like 9 different prisons or 8 different prisons in like 9 months. Something ridiculous like that.
Whoa, Chris, hold on a second. For the viewers out there, are you saying that you were offered a deal to incriminate Roger Stone and then you were retaliated against when you turned them down?
Yeah, so they never even went to me with this deal, but my lawyer came up to me a couple days later and he says, "How do you know Roger Stone?" I said, "I don't know him." He goes, "Well, they have a 9-page statement that says that you do. And I wouldn't be your lawyer if I didn't give you all of the facts. And the facts are that they want you worse than I've ever seen anyone want anyone. You know, I keep on telling them that you're a nobody, but they keep on swearing up and down that you're somebody. And you know, they said basically, I can make a deal so that you're home instantly. I wouldn't do that."
Wow, so you stood up for what you believed in. That's incredible.
Yeah. So a lot of people wouldn't, you know, for 3 years they offered me that deal and then they kept on compounding my charges higher and higher and more charges, complete BS charges. You know, we can prove that the police officer that was supposedly hurt, Robinson, he was never hurt. Up until, strangely enough, 4 months after January 6th, all of a sudden, and we got a video, which the video that I'm referring to is my interrogation video. We received that video because we demanded it, where FBI Special Agent Fulp says, "You never hurt any cops. You're good. You can go home today. Just cooperate. And as soon as we got that video, all of a sudden, Sergeant Robinson's back had massive back spasms.
Well, that's just a little, that's confusing for some of our viewers probably, because if you look at the mainstream media, they've attempted very heavily to paint you as one of the most violent J6ers. So you're saying that, do you think you're alone in this? Do you think other J6ers were smeared, and do you think the facts were altered for a political narrative?
Everyone was smeared, but the people who basically stood up and wouldn't back down, wouldn't take a deal, they made it their mission to smear them and to change the facts of their case. I mean, they moved me around for 3 years before I even got my discovery. So it's crazy.
You've talked about some of the historic levels of abuse that have been unseen in America before your case, and that it could showcase some of these abuses that had been hidden by the BOP. Solitary confinement for up to 18 months, pressure to lie about others, as you had stated. I'd also heard that you had a very severe knee injury that you were forced to walk around untreated. Can you tell us a little bit more about what was done to you?
So, yeah, at one point, at one jail, they didn't feed me. I have celiac disease, so that whole gluten-free thing, right? I actually need it. So I have a very, very severe allergy to wheat. Cross-contamination, I can't eat it at all. So at one point, they did feed me for 3 weeks straight. I lost 30 pounds in 3 weeks. I lost 60 pounds at that jail. And I lost 30 pounds at another jail. I lost, it was just the amount of weight that I lost and the amount of, they're supposed to give you, now it's 2 hots in a cot, right? 2 hot meals, a cold meal, and a bed. That's what you're supposed to get in jail. The amount of times that I received 3 meals that I could actually eat, it was probably less than 100 days. If not, definitely less than 200 days. And we're talking out of 1,500 days. So the amount of abuse of just not giving someone 3 meals a day that they can eat is just insane. On top of that, yes, I blew out my knee. I ripped my meniscus. My knee was about 4 times its size, 3 times its size for about 8 months. I specifically showed on camera, I showed the warden at the DC jail. She said, "Oh, well, you're going to the doctor immediately." And that just didn't happen. The medical staff neglected January 6ers, but they neglect everyone, but really the J6ers, they really neglected because of politics, I believe. To the point where when I was in the BOP, we did a FOIA request, or a HIPAA request. And the DC jail actually blacked out the names of the doctors in my chart, which is completely illegal.
That's incredible, Chris. So you're saying that they just completely threw legality to the wind, all for a political spite campaign because you wouldn't turn over?
Absolutely. And we actually have a big announcement. I'm using LaSalle and James LaSalle, and then also Jeremy Price. He's a New Jersey lawyer. I'm using both of them for my litigation because we can prove. That's the one good thing about what I did is I documented everything. Every day I have documentation. I have grievances that can prove all the things that I'm talking about. I have over 5,000 pieces of information. I am the most documented January 6er by far. And that's going to help a lot of people. But I can announce that we have officially either will be filed today or tomorrow. By the end of the week, it will be a $100 million lawsuit against the DOJ specifically the DC jail, the DOJ, the marshals. It's just going to be a wide range of three-letter agencies in there, because what they did was absolutely criminal, and it's about time someone stood up. And I thank James LaSalle and Jeremy Price for standing up and being my sword, because I couldn't do it without them. So I want to say thank you to those guys.
Absolutely. Some people are calling this a watershed moment in the history of American justice. There's so much turmoil and argument over J6. Let's talk a little bit more about current events. I would love to get your opinion on some of what's happening now with Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, the J6 convictions, and then the announcement today. If you could go into a little bit of that, please.
Yeah. So, Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, they've been saying for years, oh, well, the J6ers have been treated horribly and this and that. I mean, to the point where I'm one of the only J6ers that has a signed statement by 12 Congress members that talks about my torture, and it was sent to the BOP. So all of that aside, but guys, they talk out of both sides of their mouth. All of a sudden, they're not doing anything. Look at just what happened today. All of a sudden, it goes from, hey, the Epstein list, the Epstein files. It's on my desk. This is what I was listening to the news just earlier, and Peter Doocy literally says to I guess the press secretary, hold on, wait, this isn't what Pam Bondi said, because now they're saying, oh, there was never any true list. Hold on, wait, I have your direct quote, and Peter Doocy quotes her and says, it's on my desk. The list is on my desk. So how all of a sudden is there not a list? And I'll tell you one thing. If Pam Bondi and Dan Bongino and Kash Patel are these disgusting human beings, if they're not going to hold them accountable, we the people will hold the three of them accountable.
So it seems very coincidental, given Epstein's Mossad connects and Ghislaine Maxwell's Mossad connects, and the influence of AIPAC that has been growing stronger and stronger in the American Congress over the past years, that it would coincide with Benjamin Netanyahu visiting the White House to talk to Trump today, and that announcement would come out today. Do you think that those things are related? What's your opinion? Absolutely.
If you can't see the inside scoop in between Mossad, Netanyahu, and Epstein, then you haven't been paying attention, because this is just absolutely, I mean, it's clear as day. I mean, it's all connected, and I think that Netanyahu and the Mossad were the ones taking these with our CIA, and then they were the one blackmailing all of these people. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. I mean, these people need to be held.
Do you think that explains some of the overwhelming support for Israel and Mossad that you see in the American Congress and the American media? If you walk through the halls of Congress, you'll see more Israeli flags than American flags. Do you think those things are related?
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely, because and with that being said, it's right's right and wrong is wrong. If you're a pedophile, I don't care if you're the top 1%. I don't care if you're a Congress member. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. You should be held responsible. And if you were over on that island, I don't care if it was Trump and he was over on that island and he was doing things. I don't care who it is. If you're over on that island doing the things that we knew took place, then they need to be held responsible. End of story.
For the average American who sees these things and finds themselves growing enraged because they don't see movement, what can you tell the American people?
I mean, it's up to the American people to stand up and to be heard. I mean, I understand that, you know, Adam, you were there. I was there certainly, but we were the top 1% of people who were willing to stand up against a foe that we could not win against. Okay, and then to have our voices heard. And I can tell you one thing: it needs to happen. The American people cannot be lazy about this. They cannot just back down and say, "Oh, okay, it's fine. It's not a big deal." This is the biggest deal. And it just goes to show you all of a sudden, hey, in America, if you're a pedophile, it's okay as long as you're a congressman, as long as you are that top 1%. It's
you heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. People are fed up. That is such a strong sentiment from our guest, Crise Quaglin. Let me ask you here. It's been put forward as controversial lately that the question, America first or Israel first, is that controversial? What do you think? America first or Israel first?
I mean, listen, I don't care who it is. If you're across the sea, then you're secondary, as far as I'm concerned. I don't care who you are. I don't care, you know, what side of the religion spectrum you're on. I don't care. I think it should and should always be America first. This is not what we plan, what I signed up for. This was supposed to be America's first only. You know what I mean? It was supposed to be no wars, no this, no that, and all of a sudden we're, you know, Trump needs to get his stuff going. You know what I mean? I understand he had to go past the big beautiful bill, whatever it is, right? And now he has all of the funding for, the border wall, for this, for that. But we got to get some boots on the ground. We got to get moving as far as keeping America safe again.
One of the things that is of interest to our viewer audience, there's many people who are Chinese MAGA who escaped from Tiananmen Square in the past and are fervently anti-communism, trying to warn the American people about the dangers of Marxism as communism coming to the American shores. What do you think that you can tell our viewers about how to resist, about how to stop the spread of communism in the United States?
I would start by opening up a history book. You can also, there's several books that are out there. I know, Adam, you have your book out there. I have a book coming out as well called Defiance, Unchained Justice, Unyielding, Unbroken, the J6er who refused to bow, by Robert James. He also has a book out called It Sucks to Be Them. And then that's going to be followed up by The Gaslighted Citizen. Those are unbelievable books. I'm going through, so I'm down in Florida right now at Robert James's house. And we are going through the first 266 pages of the first book of basically Defiance. People need to start reading. People need to understand that the history, I mean, as basic as it is, unless you read about your history, it's just bound to repeat itself again. You know what I mean? And people aren't opening up books. People aren't reading. People are listening to whatever that black box that's mounted on the wall tells them. And that's basically social Marxism 101. You control the media, and then you control how 95% of these people think.
So another thing that I wanted to ask you about, Chris, is we're watching the rise of possibly malicious AI through Palantir and through automated drones targeting. What can you comment about for the future of what America should be and whether or not we should allow black sites and automated drone strike technology in the United States?
I think that as far as, I mean, it's a slippery slope, man. And AI can be a great tool, but everyone's seen Terminator, you know what I mean? The new one, when, you know, everyone's seen iRobot, you know, with Will Smith. You know, it's a crazy, you start down this slippery slope. I'm not a fan of any government, or especially big government. You know what I mean? I know we've had multiple conversations about this. The government is not supposed to be this giant, you know, black cloud following everyone around. That's not what our forefathers intended. And with this AI stuff, we need to be very, very careful. That's all I'm going to say about it. We need to be very, very careful. But on American soil, I don't think that we should be, you know, using this stuff at all. And unfortunately, if we don't use it, then everyone else is just going to use it. You know, China, Russia, everyone else is going to use it. So it's either, now it's like, well, either we do or we get left behind. So, but I feel that in the future, you're going to see some good things, but then also some bad things. And we're really going to have to start looking at the government and how much power we're giving them.
So you heard it, listeners. I've been talking about this for some time. We need to see conservative patriot movement in the tech industry. We've got to get our people out there raising our voices, because if a movement is saturated by your opposition, just hoping and wishing and expecting that it's going to turn out okay doesn't seem like a good strategy. Chris, I just wanted to give you a couple minutes here to talk about what you're doing personally, whether or not, if you want to shout out a Give, Send, Go, just talk a little bit more about Crise Quaglin, the human side.
Yeah, so my story doesn't stop just at jail. My story continues with basically the FBI and my prosecution screwing with me so much that I was going through a divorce, and they moved me 4 days before my divorce hearing, where I was pro se. Now, they undervalued my house by $250,000. They took all of any dime that I had in the bank account. They just gave everything to my ex-wife. I'm still fighting custody battles right now, trying to hold my 4-year-old son, Nathan. I haven't held him since he was 2 months old. And again, this is all because I refused to give in to their false narrative. And then I fought him every step of the way.
If there's one thing that you could tell to your son, Nathan, right here, standing live in front of the White House, what would you say?
I would tell him that I love him, and eventually we're going to have a talk, and I hope he forgives me, but understands why I couldn't be with him, and why the very first thing that I ever taught him to do, or first lesson that I ever taught him, was not going to be, it's okay to lie, and it's okay to give up other people if you get in trouble, just to take the easy route out. You have to stand up as a man, you have to be counted, and you have to look yourself in that mirror every day. And sometimes that takes, taking the hard licks, No one expected this to be the end. But if some good comes out of it, if we show that, when we did show the government that they worked for the people, I believe that it was the beginning of Trump's whole movement. was that J6. I mean, we were used as political pawns for both sides. So if anyone can donate, that would be great. It's givesendgo.com/I love Nathan, Nathan.
Thank you so much, Chris. Do you have any last things to say to America?
Just keep an eye out for Defiance, the book. We're also going to try for a brandy, a whiskey, or a bourbon, one of those two. And the book's coming out, and just keep an eye out for this lawsuit. This will be, because I'm willing to take it straight to trial. I'm 100% willing to take it straight to trial because I have the proof. I have more documentation than any other J6er, and it shows just that absolute beast that the BOP is. And we need prison reform across the nation, in the feds and in state, but we need prison reform, and that's why I've become such an advocate for prison reform, because the things that I saw over these 3.5 years, no one should have seen. You know, it's just absolutely disgusting.
Well, you heard it here live, ladies and gentlemen. Chris Quaglin, patriot, author, father, businessman, and activist. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today live at 1600 Unscripted in front of the White House.
Thank you, Adam.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us again. We'll see you next week. And a big thank you out there to Chinese MAGA for always being great supporters. Thank you. Gigi.
Thank you, Pages. We will see you next time. Oh.